TikTok is getting banned, the H1B visa program is under fire, and DEI efforts are being cut at major companies. In today's show, we'll discuss these and many other trending tech topics. Wow, that was a mouthful. I'm Juwan. Welcome to Ask About Tech. This is the very first episode, and this is the show where I unpack the biggest tech stories to give you the insights that matter. So whether you're just getting started in tech or you just want to stay updated, I got you covered. No, seriously, I got you covered. And that's why you want to stay till the end, because I got a lot of juicy stories in this episode. So let's get straight to it. TikTok is finally getting banned. And I say that not because I'm excited, but this drama has dragged on for what feels like forever. Trump hasn't even been president in the last 4 years. And this drama, this saga started way back in his first administration. So Trump and China had their differences. I don't know how many of you remember China. That was a thing, and he wasn't having none of it. He had problem with the Chinese tech phone company, Huawei, where the CEO was in a lot of deep trouble, and they got them out of the US. And then TikTok was next on the chopping block. And then it passed an executive order, but that didn't work out. That didn't get TikTok out. And that thing just kept on going up until when Congress passed a bill to get TikTok out. And that has been this countdown that we've had towards January 19th of 2025. That's the final day. So this is literally on the precipice of that. And unless something drastic happens between now and then, this might be us kissing TikTok bye-bye. And what does that mean? Really, like, what does it really mean if TikTok is gone? Does it mean we'll not see this app anymore? Well, I hope not, but this is what I can say. So here's what you can expect. Number one, there will no longer be app updates, as you can see here. Also, you're not going to have access to download TikTok, which just means no new users are going to be able to join TikTok. You're also not going to be able to get any updates. And the biggest challenge is if you're a creator who's making money on TikTok, you're also going to see diminished ad revenues as companies move away from the platform. And that just means that, this might just be the end of an era. I've been seeing a lot of funny memes, RIP TikTok, on different platforms. But what do you feel? Do you think that this was the right move? Do you think TikTok should have been getting banned? I definitely want to know your thoughts. So leave them in the comment section below. If you're a creator just like I am, making money off of TikTok, well, that's the caveat. I don't make any money currently on TikTok. I guess, this is where some of that best practice being said about you always edging your bets. It's also like a thing in product management. You always want to diversify your opportunities. And this is like one good example of that. So what has been happening even with this TikTok ban is that you're going to see a lot of other players coming into the space trying to take TikTok's spot. And we're seeing this happen in real time with RedNote, this app right here, this Chinese app right here that has been taking the whole of social media by storm in this last couple of days. And look at that, like it's gotten more downloads than ChatGPT. So that is saying something. And also Lemonade, which is a similar app as well. But it's not just this apps. There's been other fringe apps that have been gaining momentum in the event of this news. And TikTok literally had two options, right? They could either sell the company, which they refuse to do, or basically wait to get banned. And that's exactly the option they're going for. One of the most serious investors who's come into play, who's shown interest, is Mr. Wonderful himself, the shark from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, who's been in conversation about trying to find a solution, trying to put together a consortium of US-based investors to buy this portion of TikTok to move it forward. But as I mentioned, TikTok hasn't really gone for that deal. Now, this is the funny part. You wouldn't guess who also showed interest. McMill. He made this tweet a couple of days ago where he said, "Sell TikTok to me." And he was clowned all across Twitter for even thinking about it. Some people said they were going to follow him. They said he was trying to get to the you know what tapes. That's why he wants to buy it. But I don't think it's a serious bid. I think he's just clowning. But I don't know if this is real or not. One of the biggest creators ever, Mr. Beast, also threw his hat in the ring about buying TikTok. Here's what he had to say.
I just got out of a meeting with a bunch of billionaires. TikTok, we mean business. This is my lawyer right here. We have an offer ready for you. We want to buy the platform. America deserves TikTok. Give me a seat at the table. Let me save this platform, TikTok.
So what do you think? Do you think Mr. Beast really wants to buy TikTok, or is he trolling? Let me know in the comment section below. The H1B visa program has been the rage this entire holiday period, and that whole conversation has spilled all the way into January. See, in case you don't know what the H1B visa is the high-skilled worker visa that the United States offers to bring in the best of talent all across the globe. And this visa's single purpose is to help America stay competitive in all the areas that matter. Now, the biggest challenge about this visa program is that a lot of critics actually say that what the US is getting oftentimes isn't the highest quality workers or the most talented people. It is oftentimes quite the opposite. And companies are using this as a loophole or an opportunity to not hire American workers, not pay the right wages, and just getting away with a whole bunch of different things. And there's a lot of data to actually back up this whole conversation. Now, on the flip side, people like Elon and other tech people and tech billionaires don't necessarily subscribe to it. Elon was actually so flustered about this entire issue and got so mad that it literally told someone to F themselves in his defense of the H1B visa program. So Maki, who was the person in question, referenced Musk's stance on the H1B visa program in the United States with similarly sarcastic comment writing, "Stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. Let's optimize H1B." In response, Musk used strong language while clarifying his position on the topic. He wrote, "The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built Tesla, SpaceX, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H1B. Take a big step back and go F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue and the likes of which you cannot comprehend." So very strong words there. Elon definitely feels very strongly about this issue. And it's interesting because, Elon is an immigrant. A lot of people who mention this definitely have a lot of valid criticism. There's been a lot of layoffs, a lot of job cuts. There's a lot of despair and desperation. I actually have friends who have been out of work for 3 months, 6 months, a whole year. So you can definitely feel where a lot of the anger and frustration is coming from, right? If people are not getting opportunities, why are these opportunities, why isn't the government and this companies doing something about it? Instead of then shipping even those jobs that don't exist to other places or bringing other people in to fill in those roles. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I see the validity of allowing to bring in, one, the best and brightest talent across the globe. Two, when we have abundance, to spread that abundance around. But I think where it feels a little unfair is that there's a lot of people frustrated not having the right opportunity, not able to, pay their mortgage and deal with a lot of stuff. Looking at these opportunities going to other people. So I think that's where the frustration is coming from. And you're seeing a lot of tweets, a lot of reactions and things like that. By the way, Elon came back after this whole meltdown, recognizing, after a lot of people showed him a lot of facts about the whole entire H1B issue, to say this. The issue can be easily fixed by raising the minimum salary and adding a yearly cost for maintaining H1B, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. I've been very clear that the program is broken and needs major reform. So it does feel like we were able to get to some compromise potentially, but I think the conversation is far from over. And I think that, this requires a lot of humility. But in the moment where this whole thing was raging on, there was a lot of accusations against Elon taking away people's verified badges and things like that. And this person, clowns him for it, says, I'm an Elon fan, but this spiral since the H1B stuff has been noticeable and very disappointing. He's about 2 posts away from taking someone Tesla away for being mean to him. But I think there's another point that really aligns with, a lot of the things that I've said, and it's by this user. Say, want to talk about entitlement, an unjustified sense of entitlement? How about companies which want to sell products to American consumers, want access to American capital markets, want US corporate law, tax law, and IP law, but do everything to avoid hiring Americans? I think this is totally spot on. And at the end of the day, I think, the bigger issue here for me specifically is a lot of this company's prosperity is really tied to the US, right? So if you take these jobs away or you ship these jobs overseas, inadvertently what you're doing is that you're creating a scenario or a situation where you're literally weakening the same economy that's supposed to support your growth. I don't really know how all of that is going to shake out. So who are you in support of? Do you think, the current H1B system should continue, or do you think it needs major reform, as many people were saying, and as Elon eventually agreed? Let me know in the comment section. For more than a year, DEI has been one of the most debated topics in America. And there was a fast rise for DEI and DEI efforts and DEI initiative, in the wake of Judge Floyd getting murdered in 2020. A lot of companies made commitment to support more DEI efforts, to bring more talent, more underserved, underrepresented talent to the fore. And a lot of those efforts really spurred on backing what a lot of those companies were saying up with action. But one of the things that you've seen over the past years, I don't know if it's the ZERP era or the post-ZERP era, is that a lot of companies, coupled with layoffs, coupled with all of this other stuff, are rolling back on some of these initiatives. In fact, when the layoffs started to hit, a lot of the people who were hired through like the DEI pipelines, et cetera, were the first people to get cut. And you've seen a couple companies, come out and say, we're no longer going to support DEI efforts. We're going to move away from it. But, the first major tech companies, and that's got everybody talking, is Meta. Last week, Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I think he also had a video of his own where he was talking about the fact that they're no longer going to support this. So, according to CNN, Meta is ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs known as DEI. The company said Friday, becoming the latest company to pull back from such practices in the wake of pressure from conservative critics and consumers. Meta is eliminating the company's DEI team and ending equity inclusion programs and changing hiring and supplier diversity practices, according to a company memo obtained by CNN. And basically, this is the gist of it, right? They're moving away completely from it. They're trying to make a whole 180. And I think, Mark Zuckerberg is kind of like in this, Chad era, let's so to speak, right? And I think specifically on this DEI issue, I think it's something that I'm torn on, right? Because it does have a lot of criticism, and some of them I could definitely see reason with. For example, you know, DEI, especially when applied incorrectly, does create a sense of injustice. Because of the implied preferential treatment that is created, a lot of people can feel alienated, right? And even though I know ultimately is to help people who may not necessarily have been in these roles, who may not have had this opportunity, who may be first generation, college educated, first generation to even work in corporate, I could definitely see the reason. But if you look at the flip side, there's a lot of people who are going to look at it and say, I'm disenfranchised. Like if you're going to favor a group, it then means that you're going to disfavor a group. So that is one criticism that I do understand, right? I think another one, which for me is even a little more sinister, is that I know that a lot of people who get in through DI pipelines are not unqualified, but there's a narrative that has been created around it, right? And you can't completely ignore it, right? Which then means that when people get in these conversations or get into these roles, will they get the support to succeed in these roles? Will their peers look at them as equal peers, right? In the pursuit of in their careers, and that's a big challenge, right? And I think ultimately those two things create future barriers even for people to come through that pipeline. But on the other side is that there's so many talented Black and brown, and underrepresented folks who got opportunities because of these initiatives. See, the whole hiring game is not in black and white. The systems are not optimal. Even with AI, there are a lot of good candidates who get filtered out. There's a lot of strategy, like, are you applying early? Are you doing this? Are you getting a referral? And if you're underrepresented, even if you're qualified, even if you're talented, you may not get those opportunities. And because now DEI is going away, you're going to see more and more people who would have ordinarily qualified if there were, for example, specialized pipelines and things like that. Now, all of that has gone away. So that is a part of it that makes me sad. But I think where I'm very hopeful is that I think I like a solution where we can win, right? Where we dictate the rules of our own game. And I think this can be that moment, right? Where as underrepresented folks, one, we're building the systems and platform that help us succeed, not just because a company decided to put an initiative in place, but because we've figured out a way, we've cracked a model that gets us in one way or another. I think another way is for us to build, right? Building and ownership, right? If we build it and own it, it's going to be hard for us to get taken out, right? In this way. And that has been something that I advocate for heavily. So for example, there are over 1,000 unicorns, that's tech companies in the US that are valued at more than $1 billion or more. Only 3 of those companies are Black owned. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to build. And I know like maybe the same conversations might go around like sourcing capital or things like that. But I think real sustainable progress comes when we figure out ways to get beyond this problem. So I think those are some of the things that I'm hopeful for and excited about, right? It's finding ways to now finally build systems that help us build repeatable success that goes even beyond many of these confines of these challenges. And in some positive news, while a lot of companies are moving away from DEI, at least Apple and Costco are trying to further some of those initiatives, right? So Apple came out, and spoke to their shareholders about extending it. And I think, that's a good thing, potentially, right? Because of some of the positives of this programs, I think this could be potentially a good thing. Apple, for example, cites the fact that, they've had a long history of supporting like a lot of diversity initiatives. So for example, they're saying, where Apple is an equal opportunity employer and does not discriminate in recruiting, hiring, training, or promotion on any basis protected by law. Apple seeks to operate in compliance with applicable discrimination laws both in the United States and many other jurisdictions which they operate. So Apple has had a supply diversity program for a long time. Set up in 1993, they work with groups such as the National Minorities Supplier Development Council and the National Veterans Business Development Council. So they've had a long history of doing this. They don't want to go away from that history, and they're talking to their shareholders to keep this in place. So I'll say kudos to them for showing uh, showing courage in the midst of this challenging issues. RTO mandates. So in the wake of layoffs in tech and tech adjacent industries, one of the things that has happened is the return to office policies. So many companies started with come back to office 1 day a week to 2 days a week to 3 days a week. And then some companies just said, you know what, you're fully back in office. One of the first companies to do it was Tesla. Amazon was a fast follow. And now you're seeing a big bank do it. JP Morgan Chase recently asked all their employees to come back to office. And the wildest part about this story wasn't even just the fact that they asked their employees to come back to work, it was what happened after. So after they shared this memo, a lot of the employees went out to complain about it in the company's forum. I imagine maybe like on Teams or the Slack channel. And this is what happened. So the complaints cited increased commuting and childcare costs, as well as concerns about mental health, stress, according to one of the sources. And after more than 300 comments were posted within the first hour, the page was locked and sent the second source. So it's very interesting. That's not very First Amendment friendly, but I think it's just a trend that we're going to continue to see in this very strong employer market, right? The employers are holding all the cards. They know that there's a lot of talent on the market. They can always hire and replace people. So they just feel like they have a lot of power. And I think, I really hate to say it. I hate to say, but I think you're going to see more of it. And I think this is not even the worst, right? Some of the worst ones are where like companies would hire employees in a certain state or city and then be fully remote. And all of a sudden they'll say we have a return to office mandate. And it's either you move across the country or we fire you. And one of the saddest stories that I heard was that this actually happened to someone. They moved and 3 months later they got laid off. So all of the uprooting their lives and doing all of that stuff just went down the drain, despite still following, what the company stated. And I think, one of the things that this will be important is like, if you're a new person getting into tech right now, I think you definitely should follow this trend. You should follow this news and don't be so picky about, I only want remote roles, etc., because you're going to see this trend for a minute. So try to adjust, your expectations as you start to target these roles in tech. Even if you've been living under a rock for the past year, you've heard about ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and all this other AI tools, chatbots, LLMs, whatever you want to call them. And they've been some of the most exciting things around for a minute. Well, the game has just been changed. So agentic AI is what is buzzing this minute. And for those of you who are not aware of what agentic AI is, they're basically AI-powered agents that can plan your next trip overseas, make all the travel arrangements, and human-like bots that act as caregivers for the elderly. This agentic AI space right now with the large language models is that they're very proactive. I think that's the big thing, right? Is that many of the things that have been built before, whether it's kind of like your traditional AI that we know or CPU that you call on games, is that they're deterministic. LLM took it a step further where it's sourcing like this large data sets to give you these responses. Agentic AI takes it one step further, right? The goal of it will be to be able to do things that you typically would not be able to do before. And I think that's both the exciting and scary part, right? That's what is scary to a lot of people right now. A lot of companies are getting onto it. They're training people, they're hiring people. I think it could be an interesting opportunity. It's scary but I think there could also be opportunity there. On the scary part, it means that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. But I think on the opportunity side, it also means that you're going to see a lot more demand for these roles. So if you're looking to get into a new role in tech, I think this could potentially be one of those roles that you could potentially get into. And I'm going to roll this clip from Mark Zuckerberg and him saying, what they're preparing for, what they're expecting with Agentic AI. Check this out.
Probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, then you can get it to be more efficient, and then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers.
So there you have it. I think it's definitely very interesting space to watch. I think this is going to be a very ground shaking moment, but I don't want to go the doom and gloom route. I definitely want to go the opportunity route. I think one of the interesting things that we've seen over the last probably decade in the tech industry is that there's going to be big trends, right? Whether that's, the cloud, AI, agentic AI, and all this, trends and micro trends that are going to come. And that just means increased learning. Cybersecurity has been one area that has exploded, right? As more and more companies embrace tech, they're going to have vulnerabilities and they're going to need to plug those vulnerabilities. So that's new opportunity for people getting into the tech industry. So I think even with all the opportunities and potential job losses that come as a result of this development, you're going to see even more opportunities on the other side of that divide. And to end today's show, we got to talk about CES. So what is CES? CES is the Consumer Electronics Show. It's an annual trade show that showcases the latest in consumer technology products and trends. So if you're looking for the latest and greatest of the tech industry, you are likely to find it at CES. And I'm a big believer in conferences and this big tech meetups because it's a big learning opportunity for anybody who's in tech. I definitely wasn't able to make CES this year, but I definitely look forward to going there next year or sometime soon. According to CNET, this was some of the most interesting things that happened at CES this year. So again, the TLDR is going to be AI, robots, and things like that. So, the best was, of course, NVIDIA's Cosmos AI model. And then, you have the Under Zero series and then a bunch of other things. Actually, there's a video that really, really describes some of this interesting things that happened at CES. So I'm just going to roll the clip.
I saw at CES 2025. First, Honda made a Lamborghini. Well, at least their own version of it, because you can't tell me that their new all-electric supercar doesn't look like a Lamborghini. Next, I found the weirdest robot arm from this company that scans your entire arm and hand perfectly to copy and sync the robot arm to your movements so it'll replicate what you do and could even pick up things way heavier than a normal human. And next up is gonna change how everyone orders at fast food restaurants forever from Intel. They created a generation AI that not only makes it easier for you to order food by giving you recommendations based off of your order history or allergies, but it can even remember your go-to orders and just make your whole experience that much faster. And then from NVIDIA is a robot that can shake your hand and wave at you. And I even saw another robot from NVIDIA, and that can even get food and snacks for you at a convenience store. Overall, even though AI was spammed a bit everywhere this year, there still was some crazy tech and some exciting things to look out for the year.
So another interesting thing that, happened at CES was that Delta was celebrating their 100-year anniversary here at CES, right? And, they had a keynote. They kind of like we're talking about technology. Again, as I mentioned, all the big companies today are tech companies. So they kind of like talked about how they were using tech internally, showed some new tech for travel and all the different things that they were doing. And they had this really cool indoor fireworks show at the end of it. Check it out. So that's the show for today. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, leave me a thumbs up. This is the first ever episode of Ask About Tech. And what other topics would you like me to cover? What things would you like to see on the show? I definitely am open to a lot of feedback. Thank you for coming to the very beginning of it. And I just hope that it grows and grows and grows. My goal with this show is to bring you all of the latest and greatest in tech, talk about all of the new developments that are happening in tech, just to keep you updated and hopefully help you figure out all of the latest and greatest in tech. And I also have a weekly live stream called Working in Tech. I bring experts in different fields from DevOps to AI, cybersecurity, and software engineering. So again, if you're someone who's looking to break in the tech industry, if all of this sounds exciting to you, I have over 50 episodes of that podcast. So go check it out. There's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of interesting and exciting stuff there for you to enjoy and learn from. This has been Ask About Tech, the brand new show about the tech industry. Thank you for rocking with me, and I'll see you in the next one.